Next up at UFC Vegas 81, we have Chris Gutierrez getting rebooked to take on Alatengheli. Chris Gutierrez is 19-4 overall, 4-1 in his last 5. He is coming off that loss to Pedro Munoz, and he was supposed to fight Montel Jackson last week. They gave him a new opponent. They pushed it a week. He's taking on Alatengheli, 16-8 overall, 3-1-1 in his last 5. He's coming off the decision win over Chad Anheliger a year ago. So another layoff fighter stepping up on short notice here. He's taking on Chris Gutierrez, as I mentioned. This guy's a very good kickboxer, great low kicks, great cage control, solid volume, solid cardio. He'll keep a nice pace. He just wants to come forward, light your legs up, and then come to your head. His leg kicks are absolutely fantastic. Ooh. He used them to slow you down before chasing. Why are you making those noises?
He just wants to light your legs up and then come to your head.
Anyway, he's got solid takedown defense at 74%, which allows him to be out there and fight a little loose because he trusts his takedown defense. But he is coming off that loss to Pedro Munoz, which he was the favorite. He got dropped in that fight and just can never get himself going. And I get it. Pedro Munoz, we know, is a very good fighter, but that's not how that was supposed to go. He's taking on Alatengheli. This guy's a technical striker. He can work in grappling if he needs to. You saw that when he took down Ryan Benoit 4 times, Danan Bagarai 3 times, and Chad Anheliger twice in his last fight. The problem is he is a technical striker, and he waits for the perfect shot, so he ends up being low volume. If you get in his face and you keep it dirty, he never lets his hands go because that perfect shot doesn't show itself. Chris Gutierrez sort of plays into that, right? Chris Gutierrez is kind of a technical striker. So that could give Alatengheli what he's looking for, right? If you move the way he expects you to move, then he's going to start to time you, then he's going to throw, then he might work in some wrestling. I am squarely on the Chris Gutierrez side here, and I think it's the layoff with the short notice. It's about a week and a half, 2 weeks notice, a week and a half. Not necessarily 3 days short notice, but I do think the short notice is going to matter here, especially strikers. It takes a little while to get back into that striking rhythm. So I'm all over the Chris Gutierrez side here, but I do think this line is a bit wide. Alatengheli is very good, and this should be a much closer fight. If this was a full camp, full 6 weeks each, I don't know what the odds would be, but I'm assuming the short notice is factored into this. I am on the Gutierrez side, but again, Alatengheli is much better than these plus 205 odds. What do you think, Jakey boy?
I don't know if the short notice matters, I think, as much. I think that's probably why the odds are moving. I think people are starting to realize that and be like, oh, no. But he seems like a guy that, I'm going to stay ready so I don't have to get ready type of dude. And this is going to come down to, by the way, the odds are plus 234 by now. So they're getting even wider for Alateng. It's
Alatengheli, but then you go to these different websites it's
I'm from Indiana, so you really don't have any excuses because you're very cultured being from New York City. But I'm from Indiana, so you got to really kind of work with me on this one. Alateng, in my mind, Alateng's got a great opportunity in this fight. Listen, Chris Gutierrez coming into his last fight, he was supposed to fight Montel Jackson. Is it Montel Jackson?
Yeah, that's who
I appreciate that. Okay, thank you. Yeah, thanks for paying attention.
And Haley Alateng, I keep saying short notice. He was booked on this card a while ago. He's supposed to fight Ronnie Yaya, and then that fight got scrapped. So, technically he was supposed to fight, but I think that was canceled 2 months ago.
It was canceled a while ago, yeah. But
I
assume
not 2 weeks ago.
I assume it's one of those things where, listen, we're going to try and get you back on the card, just
but you still let yourself go a little, yeah.
I don't think he's one of those guys. But Alateng, so here, this is what I was going to say. Chris Gutierrez, to me, against Montel, that was a more favorable matchup to me than this fight, because Montel is a guy that can be, actually not can be, he is always such a low volume, off his back foot striker. He will let you kind of come to him. And Chris Gutierrez, when he gets in that flow state, when he really is able to get that space that he needs, when he is controlling the pace of a fight, he is going to beat a lot of people. The reason he could not beat Pedro Munoz did not give him that space. He was in his face the entire time, not throwing strikes necessarily, but pressure, forward pressure, throwing feints, and then throwing strikes. And Chris Gutierrez could never get in that flow state off his back foot. And if you watch Alatengheli against his last fight against Chad, I know it was a year ago, but if he brings in that same type of pressure, and Chad is also kind of a power puncher. He's more of a puncher. Chris is more of a kicker. But if he brings in that same type of just very smart pressure, throwing stuff out there and keeping the distance close, keeping Chris along that back fence. He can easily win this fight because, as you mentioned, he is a very, very technical striker. He is almost Pedro Munoz the way that he strikes. Both of them are very, very technical, have decent power, right? Because he was kind of fucking up Chad at some points, and we saw Pedro drop Chris Gutierrez. And he also, as you mentioned, has the wrestling mixed in. Now, he doesn't go to the wrestling as much as you probably would like to see. Against Chad, he waited until the third round. He used it very, very smartly, those takedowns. But if he also kind of mixes in a takedown at the end of each round, I think this is probably a decision fight. If he brings the forward pressure, mixes in a takedown attempt with a minute to go in each round, I think Alatengheli can definitely win this fight, and that's why he's going to be my pick. But if this fight starts and Chris Gutierrez captures the middle of the octagon, and it's Alatengheli kind of on that black line, kind of dancing around against the fence, he's probably going to get picked apart. He's probably going to get kicked a ton, and Chris Gutierrez is going to win this fight. So this is one of those situations where it's like, I'm picking Alatengheli because in my mind, there's a game plan for him. But if he doesn't execute it, he's probably going to lose this fight, and that's probably why the odds are the way they are. So my official pick is Alatengheli, but there's some kind of caveats to that, if that makes sense.
Well, and let's look at who they were preparing for. Chris Gutierrez was preparing for an incredibly powerful, explosive guy that also has insanely high-level wrestling. And Haley Alateng was preparing for a 40-year-old who wants to roll around.
Well, Ronnie Yaya is, I think you need to put some
I didn't do him any credit there. I didn't do him any credit there, but you get my point.
Yaya fucks up Chris Gutierrez.
That's just not a true statement at all. But yeah, listen, we're on the opposite sides of the pick, but I said I think this fight's a lot closer than you do. So this fight is newer. Somebody said, why is this not on DraftKings yet? He's talking about the odds, not the salaries, and that's because it's new. There's only 9 fights worth of salaries on DraftKings Fantasy. We don't have odds for the Terrence McKinney fight that we're going to break down. This card is kind of... They just dropped it?
They just dropped it. Minus 500 for Terrence right now.
Literally, I checked 5 minutes before we went live, so they must have dropped it.
I said they just did it. Yeah, I literally just said they just thought that. So.
All right, well, I'm curious. So it's minus 500 right now. I'm curious to see what that'll be by the time we finish this stream.
All right,
I think minus 500. I think you can do something with minus 500.
Oh boy, that's Angelo. This line won't last long.
It won't. Anyway. $9,000 for Chris Gutierrez on DraftKings seems like a little risky because he's going to have to finish Haley to sort of cover that. We're not going to see any grappling, so we're not going to see control time. We're not going to see takedowns. Not out of the Chris side. We're not going to see control time. We're not going to see takedowns. So he's going to light up his leg and potentially finish him. That's the only way he's going to cover that $9,000 salary. Certainly some value on the Alateng side if he is going to work in wrestling and some of the other components there. What do you think, Jakey Boombaloots?
Yeah, and I think Chris Gutierrez's power is a little bit overrated in the fact that I think his power comes from kind of his crazy stuff more than just like his straight punching power or straight kicking power. So I think it's a little bit overrated. Alatengheli's kind of been around. He's at a good camp. He's at Fight Ready, right? Henry Cejudo. I know they've kind of struggled a little bit lately, but I mean, he's at a good camp. So if he comes in, I think we're a little upset city early here. But as far as value, I don't know. Chris is a pretty tough dude as well.
Yeah, and he's good. And I guess we'll find out. Maybe he's getting a little too much credit for beating a retired Frankie Edgar.
Yeah, you just were talking shit about Ronnie Yaya, but this dude, his best highlights against a 40-year-old with CTE.
Okay. Oh, Jesus. He really took it there. Anyway, WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member. It's only $10 a month. After you become a member, link your Discord so that you can get alerts. Obviously, we're live on camera right now. We saw that those odds dropped for Terrence McKinney right now. But if we were able to do something with that before we were live and send that out to premium members, you would get that alert directly on your phone. If you like it, great. If you don't, you keep moving. But at least you found out about it on your phone instantly. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member. After you become a member, click the account button and then link Discord. And just very quickly, Discord is 100% free. 100% free. Join the Discord. The link is in the description. What's that stupid face you got?
It's just my face. If you don't want to do any of that stuff, you can just like the stream. That's some good support.
That's free there. And helpful.
I mean, that is very helpful if you want to do nothing else.
We will be, if you guys keep doing what you're doing, which is watching as often as you do, we appreciate that. Liking as often as you do, we appreciate that. Commenting as often as you do, we appreciate that. The pace that we're growing at will be the third biggest in all of this space by Christmas. Or about then.
What a Christmas present that would be.
With MMA Guru and Fight Night Picks being the only two larger than us. So we're on that trajectory. And thank you all very, very much. But we also, forget subscribers on YouTube. We already, by far, have the largest premium subscriber base, period, end of story. We're closing in on 3,000. Everybody else is messing around with 400, thinking that it's like a wildly successful. So we appreciate every single freaking one of you. And when I tell you that every single day me and Josh are talking about ways to improve premium, what else to add, what's the next thing we should do, I mean, that's an understatement as well. I drive that guy nuts with all my wild, let's add this to premium ideas. So thank you, premium members.